are two paths forward for the region. There is a path of stability and conflict and normalization of relations with Israel, and then there is a path of death and destruction, and it is Hamas that favors.
So even on the good end of that stick, there's still conflict. After not a word of criticism of Israel was uttered at the State Department briefing for the first 15 minutes I spoke up, in the course of the event, I asked a series of questions, including, does Israel have a right to kill civilians, Matt? Will you urge Israel to not starve and slaughter people? He never called on me, but after I first spoke up, Miller finally did call on Saeed Arkat, who raised issue of Israeli war crimes. Then, State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller and Max Blumenthal, who asked a series of strong questions, and I followed up.
Israel ought to abide by international law. Does that, in your view, mean that Israel must end its cutoff of water, electricity, food, and medicine to the people in Gaza?
I will say that, as the president made clear, Israel has suffered from a brutal terrorist attack. Israel has the right to defend itself. It has the right to take action against the terrorists who launched this brutal attack and killed Israeli civilians. It killed American civilians, killed mothers and children and babies and kidnapped children.
And what's Israel doing?
And so
now?
they are going to take action to respond to this terrorist attack and take action to secure their country, and we support them. As the president made clear, we always encourage all of our allies and partners to act in strict accordance with
Best defense is a good offense. That's what they're saying, right? No. What they're saying is the same thing that Dick Cheney said. America does not torture people. So when America does torture people, by definition, it's not torture. Israel, to the State Department, does not engage in apartheid, does not engage in annexations or illegal settlements. So when it does, it's not doing that.
International law. That is what democracies do, and I would just point out that, of course, is not what Hamas did. Let me just finish. That is not what Hamas did in coming into Israel and kidnapping and murdering innocent civilians.
Okay, I understand. I mean, Hamas, you have Hamas listed as a terrorist organization. They don't get $4 billion a year from you. They don't have military aid and support and so on. So that is established. You're saying that Israel is a democracy. It's a country that abides by international law. I'm asking you, the cutoff of water, electricity, food, and medicine is considered a war crime. Do you call on Israel to cease its effort now in cutting off medicine,
Let
water,
me start by saying that we are
aid?
in the early days of Israel's response. Israel has a right to conduct an aggressive response, to respond to the terrorism that's been
Does it have a right to cut off aid? Does it have a right to cut off water?
committed against its citizens. We expect them to follow international law.
Okay, are you going to uphold that? Are you going to, call on them to, turn the power back on and the water back on? Are you going to withhold any aid or assistance until they do?
We believe that they will, and we will remain in close contact with them about
You
it.
believe they should not intentionally target civilians. That's one. Second, do you have any idea on the number of Palestinians killed by Israel in the last 4 days?
I have seen public reports.
What are these?
I am not going to speak to Saeed, I'm going to speak to what the U.S. government can verify, which I've done with the number of U.S. citizens. I will let Israel speak to the number of Israeli citizens that have killed, as well as the number of Palestinians
When did we start giving states rights? 1862, brother.
that have killed.
The 14 that the president spoke about are Palestinian Americans?
I don't have any degree whether they are Palestinian Americans, whether they're dual citizens. It ultimately doesn't matter to us. American citizens are American
my last
citizens.
question to you, Matt. I mean, the president said that Hamas is motivated, I'm paraphrasing, motivated solely by the quest to kill Jews. Do you believe that is to be the case? Is it the assessment of this government that Hamas' sole motivation is to go out and kill Jews? There's no context. There's no siege that has gone on for 16 years. There's no raid after raid by the Israelis.
Saeed, I am just going to say that is a bit of a surprising question after what we saw Hamas carry out this weekend. When we saw Hamas go in and deliberately target Israeli citizens and not just soldiers in the IDF, but women, children, kidnap them. We all saw the images across our television screens of Hamas behaving in the most inhumane way possible. So I won't speak to their motivations, but I think they're pretty clear.
Dude, he is sweating right now because there is not a single person who doesn't understand what's happening. Not a single person that doesn't understand what's happening. You may rationalize it. You may justify it in your own mind, right? You may call it something different, but you understand what is happening. And he is sweating bullets right now, trying to figure out how he can evade these very simple, very direct questions.
I'm
Let
saying
me
to you,
move on. Go ahead.
Is there another context?
Thank you very much, Matt. I have a question about the U.S. role, potential U.S. role.
We clearly would be concerned about any country that is providing support to Hamas, whether it be financial, whether it be military, and would look to counter that action. And we do it first and foremost by making sure that Israel has what it needs to defend itself against the recent terrorist attacks.
It already has all of the resources. What you are encountering right now is that the Israeli government fucked up, not just in the immediate moment with moving forces over to the West Bank, opening the South to attack, then moving them back to the South, and now the North. Unconfirmed reports right now. It's, ongoing. Might be updates on the Al Jazeera article, actually. Israeli army goes back on reports of infiltration from Lebanon. Oh, there it is. Yep. They didn't even come from the North. There it is. And now, in the immediate moment, they're dealing with the lack of proper planning to defend their apartheid state. But in the whole context, they have, for generations, pushed people into concentration camps, into ghettos, done illegal settlements, bombed the fuck out of Gaza, cut off water, cut off power, and then they're like, what are you doing? What's going on? I didn't do anything. Me? What? It's not me. It's literally Jacob. It is literally Jacob. If I don't do it, someone else will. So why are you mad at me? This is not me that's doing this. I'm not stealing your house. Do you think Jordan and Syria will get involved in any way? Nah, Jordan and Syria don't want that smoke, dude. They don't want that smoke right now.
Does Israel have a right to kill civilians? Does Israel have a right to kill civilians,
I'm going to
Matt?
call on the way we do it in this briefing room, and you and I had
Is
this
that you pick whoever you want to pick whenever
before,
you want to pick
is
them.
I call on people and they ask questions, and
I'm a potted plant.
Go ahead.
Yesterday, Secretary Blinken deleted a tweet.
It's awesome that no journalist is like, actually, yeah, that's a great question. Does Israel have the right to kill civilians?
We have made very clear that we do not have any grievance with the Palestinian people. As I have said from this podium a number of times, we have taken...
Yeah, no grievance, just indifference.
We support steps that improve the livelihoods, improve the dignity of the Palestinian people.
They're being bombed, and you're totally silent, and you're giving Israel a green light. This is absurd, Matt. Matt, this is completely absurd.
Excuse me. And we supply humanitarian aid that goes directly to the Palestinian people.
No. No, we don't. We supply humanitarian aid to Israel, and Israel decides what aid goes to them.
To benefit them. And I think the point that we would make, this is something the Secretary got into over the weekend. There are two paths forward for the region. There is a path of stability and conflict and normalization of relations with Israel. And then there is a path of death and destruction. And normalization to over the weekend. There are two paths forward for the region. There is a path of stability and conflict and normalization of relations with Israel, and then there is a path of death and destruction. And it is Hamas that favors.
So even on the good end of that stick, there's still conflict. Little Freudian slip there. Oops, that one got past you. Who the fuck is this? Max Blumenthal. Or sorry, this is not Max Blumenthal. This is Matthew Miller, official account for the State Department spokesperson.
There's that path of death and destruction. We do not have any quarrel with the Palestinian people, which is why we think it's important to continue to provide humanitarian aid that directly benefits them, not the terrorists the terrorists who ultimately are going to be responsible for the loss of many Palestinian lives.
But Israel is raining down death and destruction, and you're completely silent, Matt. It's beyond parody what you're doing. What you're doing is beyond parody, Matt. How can you live with
questions
yourself?
and answers. Go ahead. Israel has every right to respond forcefully to these attacks. It is
to Palestinians? Straight up. Hamas is not a representative of all Palestinians. But does Hamas not have that right? Not even a supporter of Hamas, but really though.
Is what any country would do if they saw children being dragged away as hostages, if they saw children being slaughtered, if they saw people that were a music festival being gunned down.
No, you're right. This is how most people would respond when they encounter violence. Now imagine that, but for 60 years.
any country would respond forcefully. We support Israel's right to do it. We think it's appropriate to do it. They have to be able to defend and secure their country.
Any country would lay a siege?
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, in March, you condemned Israel's finance minister, Bezalel
This is Max Blumenthal asking a question.
Smotrich, for calling for wiping the Palestinian village of Huwara off the map. This week, we've heard the defense minister of Israel, Yoav Gallant, declare that he's fighting human animals in Gaza as Israel cuts off the gas, the water, and the electricity. We've heard Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, declare that all hiding places will be turned to rubble in a besieged coastal enclave where there are 1 million children. We've heard Ariel Kalner, who is a member of Knesset from the ruling Likud party, call for a Nakba 2.0, which is essentially a call for genocide and the ethnic cleansing of Palestine.
Which is awesome because the same type of like apologetics and revisionism that neo-Nazis engage in for the Holocaust, where they say, oh, the Holocaust didn't happen, or the Holocaust didn't happen the way they said it did. And then in the same breath, we'll turn around and say, but if it did, that would be good and should happen again or worse. It's the exact same rhetoric. Oh no, it never happened. But if it did...
Palestinians, as 850 are dead in Gaza. So what do you think of that rhetoric in light of your previous condemnation?
Let me say a few things about that. Number one,
Israel has a right to defend itself as the most moral army on the planet, and, et cetera, et cetera.
We expect, as we said, that Israel will conduct its operations in accordance with international law. Number two, there are going to be a number of statements made over the course of this conflict, and when we have disagreements with them, we will make those known privately.
Oh, it's just privately. Yo, man, you're being too mask off. You're scaring the hose. BB, you're scaring the hose. What are you doing?
Number three, though.
But you made
let me just speak to this. Number three, some of the questions I'm getting today do seem to ignore the fact that Israel just had hundreds of its citizens killed.
How do you not throw your laptop at this dude's head? It seems like a lot of people are ignoring what just happened. Nobody is ignoring it, man. That's why they're there. That's why they are in that room.
Killed people who were taken hostage, and pretend that Israel shouldn't be able to conduct any kind of...
Okay, if you can't conduct genocidal rhetoric, do you acknowledge that 80 Palestinian children have been killed? Do you acknowledge that? Will you even acknowledge that?
Let me finish.
80 Palestinian children killed this week?
Over 200 now.
Again.
Babies? Do you acknowledge that?
You asked a question. I will answer the question.
Okay, well, that's my question.
So I'm going to start by answering the previous question that was interrupted.
Okay.
And then I'm going to move on to someone else.
Seem to pretend that Israel should not be able to conduct operations to defend itself and hold accountable the terrorists who killed civilians. That is not Israel's policy. That is not our policy. It is something that we would vehemently disagree with. Israel has the right to secure its country the way any country does. It has the right to defend itself against terrorism. It has the right to hold terrorists accountable. And I will say, ultimately, the Hamas terrorists who launched these operations, there is no one who has more disregard for Palestinian civilian life than those terrorists.
That's because those terrorists... Horseshit, dude. They have cut off power to all of Gaza. The innocent civilians that you are so concerned about that are now in Gaza can't even be treated at a hospital.
Let me finish.
Not the people who killed
those terrorists. 850
Palestinians, mostly civilians, bombing residential towers, bombing offices.
We seem to have a lot of new people. Those terrorists launched this activity knowing that there would be retaliation, knowing that Israel would have to defend itself as any country did, knowing that it would lead to the unfortunate loss of civilian lives.
They're not seeking the release of Palestinian captives in Israeli prisons.
Let me go.
Yeah, exactly what I said. He said, I'm going to answer your first question, and then I'll get to your second one, and then moved on.
That's amazing.
So baby killing is okay here.
Why can't you acknowledge the death
of
Palestinians?
So baby killing is okay here.
You can't even acknowledge it.
We always mourn the loss of civilian life. It is
what we will do to our enemies. The effects will be felt for generations. In other words, the state of Israel has condemned the urban children of Palestinians as guilty, fucking insane genocidal rhetoric. Yeah. Don't hide behind women and children, and don't operate from hospitals. This criticism... Oh, here, I love this. This criticism leveled at Israel only serves to prevent Israel from any action to defend itself. Israel is the only party that has the power to stop this, and it begins with a ceasefire and not bombing hospitals. Oh, don't want hospitals to be bombed? Don't want hospitals to no longer have power? Don't operate hospitals. What the fuck kind of genocidal justification is this? Hamas could not have chosen to launch 5,000 rockets? Yeah, and Israel could decide not to be doing apartheid, not to annex Gaza, not to have the West Bank be a functioning ghetto. Israel has all of the power here. If you are going to sit here and pretend that those 5,000 rockets are equivalent to even a dozen of the missile strikes being launched from fucking F-16s onto children, onto apartment buildings. It is the densest population city on the planet. There is no place that Hamas can go inside of Gaza that doesn't have a civilian population right next to them. So apartheid, I get it. So to you, killing children is okay because apartheid. Israel is killing children. No killing of children is good. Oh, so you think it's okay? No, I don't think it's okay, which is why I want Israel to stop doing it. Every time a bomb drops on an apartment, Hamas thinks they are justified in their actions. Who fucking unbanned? No, I want to hear this person. I want to hear them. I want to hear this person. Is Ben Glebe in chat? Is this Max Miller in chat right now? Every time a drone dropped a fucking missile on a hospital in Afghanistan, ISIS felt justified in their crusade. Every time you blow up a school bus, Al-Qaeda feels that they are justified in their crusade. The way to stop it is to stop subjugating a people for nearly 75 years. Hamas is killing children. 2-year appeal to apartheid isn't justification for attempting to kill as many civilians as possible, which Hamas can stop doing any time. This selective outrage about killing children. No children should fucking die. Not a single person has justified the killing of any children. Not a single person. But you don't care about that. You don't give a fuck about children dying, Palestinian or Israeli. You don't care about any of them. You're right, but war is hell? Yeah, and the party that's waging war on the Palestinian people for the last 75 years is Israel and the U.S. You don't care about children. You don't care about civilian casualties. You don't care about the bombing of hospitals or any neighborhoods where they're door knocking and killing civilians inside. You don't care about that because at the end of the day, it is just about you soothing yourself, clacking away on twitch.tv, justifying genocidal rhetoric and active ethnic cleansing. You don't care about any of this. You're just trying to annoy people online, which is why I'm going to ban you in a moment. But I hope that one day you feel even a fucking fraction of the devastation that the Palestinian people have had to endure and the innocent people who were killed by Hamas. I hope you have to deal with just a fucking fraction of that. Coward. That's what this is. You're a fucking craven lunatic clacking away on your keyboard online. Virtue signaling is in service of Hamas. Only thing I'm doing service to is giving your mother the fucking most insane head she's ever had in her life. Shut the fuck up.
It is an unfortunate circumstance every time it happens. And as I just said, the Hamas terrorists who launched this terrorist attack knowing that it would produce the loss of not just direct Israeli lives, who they took in their incursions across the border, but also the loss of Palestinian civilian lives.
I can't believe you're virtue signaling by saying that children shouldn't be killed. I can't believe you're virtue signaling right now saying that active genocide is bad. The virtue signaling is strong in a contest to see how much of a shit you can be. Subhuman.
Life, they ultimately bear the responsibility for those acts.
It took 36 minutes to do that.
When you call on Israel to not kill civilians. I'm going to ask.
Call on Israel to not kill civilians.
I just did do that.
It's a simple question.
I'm going to ask.
Will you call on Israel to not kill civilians?
I would ask you not to talk over your colleague. Go ahead.
I can't make it simpler than that, Matt.
Will
you call on Israel to not kill civilians?
I just did.
You did. Could you say it? Could you say it in a complete sentence, please?
Go ahead. There was a little talking over you. Why don't you go ahead? ahead and go again.
Oh, we're all having fun here. Oh, it's crazy in the office today. Oh, man, it's chaotic. Listen, crazy times, folks. Crazy times. All right, everybody, calm down. Okay.
If you don't mind.
Latest U.S. assessment.
Smiling while dodging the question of U.S. backing genocide.
So we do believe that
It's not just, I don't know what's worse. What is worse? Being like, no, it's actually good what Israel is doing? Or saying, I'm not even going to address what Israel is doing? Really? Like, what at the end of the day is worse? Silent complicity or a full-throated endorsement? Really, though.
Normalization of relations, not just between Israel and Saudi Arabia, but between Israel and other countries in the region, would help bring stability, would help bring peace, would help bring prosperity to the region. So it is a path that we will continue to pursue. The other path, as I said a minute ago, is the one outlined by Hamas, which is death and destruction. It is one of the goal of launching these terrorist attacks. And so we will
not the outlined stated goals by Galev, by Bibi Netanyahu, not any of their stated goals of wiping them off the face of the earth, of doing a second Nakba. I feel like when we call it a Nakba, which is, what the Palestinians refer to it as, we're forgetting what that means. Nakba means catastrophe, the face you make when ignoring IDF targeting civilians and children. Yeah.
Not be deterred in continuing to pursue further normalization, which, as I said, we believe brings stability to the region.
You're normalizing war crimes here, Matt. You're normalizing war crimes. You're saying it's okay.
Again,
you're saying it's okay if they
stop putting words
strike
in my mouth.
down,
Thank you, Matt.
residential towers.
One quick question on that.
We continue to support the current ceasefire lines and call for de-escalation of violence. It is crucial for all sides
to de-escalation of Israeli violence? Cool.
Maintain and respect ceasefire zones and to de-escalate violent activity to enhance stability in Syria and work toward a political solution to the conflict. And with that, we'll wrap. And with that, we'll wrap for the day.
People?
Thanks, everyone.
Will you urge Israel to not starve and slaughter people, please?